Every single day, you're fighting a silent war, not against the world, but against yourself, against the whispered temptations that chip away at your resolve, steal your focus, and leave you feeling empty. You scroll, you delay, you numb the unease with fleeting distractions, unaware that these tiny, almost invisible habits are not just wasting time. They're systematically dismantling your discipline, brick by painful brick. You think you're relaxing, recharging, or just taking a break. But what if these innocent moments are actually destroying the very foundation of your potential? What if the key to unlocking the life you crave lies not in doing more, but in stopping the silent sabotage? It's time to face the truth, and then it's time to fight back. The dawn arrives not with a burst of golden promise, but with a tentative, almost apologetic gray. It seeps through the blinds, painting the familiar contours of your room in a monochrome that mirrors the landscape of your mind. The alarm, a shrill jolt, is silenced with a swipe that feels less like control and more like surrender. And there it begins, the first faint tremor of a day already leaning towards compromise. You lie there, suspended in that liminal space between sleep's soft oblivion and the harsh glare of expectation. A silent internal monologue begins, a worn-out tape loop playing a familiar, insidious melody. Just 5 more minutes. What's the rush? There's nothing truly urgent anyway. The world can wait. And with each justification, a tiny thread of resolve unravels, almost imperceptibly. It's a whisper, not a shout, a gentle tug that pulls you deeper into the mattress, into the digital abyss waiting patiently beside your head. Your thumb finds the cold glass of the phone, a Pavlovian response. The blue light blossoms, a siren call in the pre-dawn gloom. Before your feet have even touched the floor, before the day has truly begun to breathe, you're already drowning in the curated lives of others, in the endless scroll of news and fleeting distractions. It's a phantom limb, this device, an extension of your consciousness, and it's pulling you away from the present moment, from the quiet dignity of simply being. You're sleepwalking through your own life. This isn't a conscious choice, not truly. It's a drift, a current you've been caught in for so long, you no longer remember the shoreline. You tell yourself it's harmless, a brief escape, a way to wake up. But deep down, a dull ache persists. It's the phantom pain of unfulfilled potential, the gnawing anxiety of a day squandered before it even had a chance to bloom. You feel it in the sluggishness that clings to your limbs, in the fog that clouds your thoughts, in the muted vibrancy of the world outside your digital window. Later, the day unfolds like a crumpled map. Intentions, once crisp and clear in the sterile light of yesterday's planning, now bleed into each other, blurred and indecisive. The task you know you should tackle, the one that whispers promises of progress and satisfaction, sits heavy on your mental horizon. But then, a subtle itch arises, a need for a momentary escape. Just a quick check, a brief detour. One tab opens, then another, a rabbit hole of captivating content, of fleeting dopamine hits. The clock, once a steady rhythm, now seems to accelerate, mocking your stalled progress. Later, the day unfolds like a crumpled map. Intentions, once crisp and clear in the sterile light of yesterday's planning, now bleed into each other, blurred and indecisive. The task you know you should tackle, the one that whispers promises of progress and satisfaction, sits heavy on your mental horizon. But then, a subtle itch arises, a need for a momentary escape. Just a quick check, a brief detour. One tab opens, then another. A rabbit hole of captivating content, of fleeting dopamine hits. The clock, once a steady rhythm, now seems to accelerate, mocking your stalled progress. It's not laziness, not precisely. It's more insidious, a creeping paralysis born of 1,000 tiny concessions. Each time you choose the path of least resistance, the mindless scroll over the difficult draft, the sugary snack over the nourishing meal, the passive consumption over the active creation, you're carving deeper grooves into the landscape of your habits. These aren't grand betrayals. They are silent, almost polite assassinations of your own discipline. You see the successful ones, the disciplined ones. their lives seemingly sculpted with effortless precision. You wonder, what do they have that I don't? And a part of you believes it's some inherent strength, some genetic lottery you lost. But the truth is, you're looking for a monster in the shadows when the real enemy is 1,000 tiny mice, nibbling away at your foundations, hidden in plain sight. The evening descends, bringing with it a melancholic sigh. The tasks deferred now loom larger, casting long shadows of guilt and regret. The gym clothes remain unworn, the book unread, the creative spark untended. Instead, the television hums, a lullaby of distraction. You sink into the couch, weary not from exertion, but from the internal tug of war, the constant negotiation with yourself. You tell yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, a promise made so many times it feels brittle, almost hollow. But tomorrow the same silent habits will be waiting. The phone, the scroll, the deferral, the escape. They are the invisible chains forged link by tiny link, binding you to a cycle of inaction and low-grade dissatisfaction. You crave freedom, growth, a life lived with purpose and intention. Yet you find yourself caught in this dance with a phantom, a struggle against habits so ingrained they feel like a part of your very being. This feeling, this quiet desperation, is not yours alone. It is the shared secret of a generation, a silent epidemic of eroded discipline. But what if this pain, this confusion, this struggle is not a sentence, but a signpost? What if recognizing these silent destroyers is the first, most powerful step towards reclaiming your power, towards sculpting the life you truly desire? What if the key to breaking free isn't a monumental effort, but a series of small, deliberate acts of defiance against the insidious whispers that have held you captive for far too long? The tension builds, a quiet storm brewing within. You're tired of the cycle, tired of the excuses, tired of feeling unseen, unheard even by yourself. The ache has grown into a hunger for change, for control, for the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived. And in that hunger, a flicker of defiance ignites, a spark of hope in the monochrome. The gray light of dawn, once a symbol of surrender, now feels different. There's a quiet hum in the air, a stillness that wasn't there before, or perhaps was always there. Only now you're finally attuned to it. The battle, you realize, isn't just with the silent habits themselves, but with the very battlefield of your mind. And it's here, in the quiet forge of self-awareness, that an ancient wisdom begins to whisper. Imagine for a moment an old Roman statesman, not one draped in opulent silks, but cloaked in a simple worn toga, his gaze piercing and serene. This is Seneca, a titan of thought, who lived not in ivory towers, but in the tumultuous heart of imperial Rome. He saw the fleeting desires, the panicked pursuits, the relentless external pressures that sought to ensnare the human spirit, and he offered a profound counter-narrative. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Consider the familiar scenario. The alarm rings. Your hand instinctively reaches for the phone. That immediate, almost unconscious grab for digital distraction isn't just a habit, it's an imagined suffering. You anticipate the boredom of waking, the discomfort of stillness, the perceived emptiness of the present moment. You imagine that the curated world of social media or the endless scroll of news will offer solace, escape, or even a sense of connection. But what it truly offers is a detour, a brief numbing that only postpones the real work of facing the day, in facing yourself. Seneca would argue that the discomfort you're trying to avoid is often far less severe than the regret that follows the avoidance. The Stoics understood that true freedom wasn't about having everything you desired, but about desiring less, and about mastering your internal responses to the world. They saw discipline not as punishment, but as liberation. For them, every moment was an opportunity to practice virtue, to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Think of Marcus Aurelius, an emperor of Rome, yet one who famously wrote his profound philosophical reflections, meditations, not for public acclaim, but for his own self-improvement. He was a man burdened by immense responsibility, surrounded by war, plague, and political intrigue. Yet he constantly reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't about brute force willpower, which often wanes under pressure. This is about understanding the landscape of your inner world. When you defer that important task, procrastinating with another episode or a meaningless chore, you're giving away your power. You're letting an outside event, the fleeting desire for comfort, the urge for instant gratification, dictate your internal state and your actions. Marcus Aurelius would challenge you to recognize that urge for what it is: a transient sensation, not an absolute command. You have the power to observe it, to acknowledge its presence, and then to choose a different path. The Stoics weren't advocating for a life devoid of joy or comfort. Far from it. They simply believed that true joy, lasting contentment, came from within, from living in accordance with reason and virtue. They knew that the pursuit of external pleasures often led to a frantic cycle of craving and disappointment. The silent habits destroying your discipline, the mindless eating, the endless scrolling, the constant deferral, are all forms of seeking external validation or comfort to fill an internal void. They are attempts to control what is outside your power, your feelings of unease, boredom, anxiety, by engaging in actions that are ultimately self-defeating. You are not your impulses. Epictetus, a former slave who rose to become a renowned Stoic philosopher, offered an even sharper distinction. Some things are in our control and others are not. He taught that our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions are within our control. Our bodies, possessions, reputation, and offices are not. This is a radical truth. The nagging feeling of inadequacy when you scroll through someone else's highlight reel, that's an opinion you hold, and it's within your control to change it. The impulse to numb boredom with endless entertainment, that's an impulse you can observe and choose not to act upon. The Stoic journey isn't about becoming emotionless robots. It's about becoming skilled navigators of your emotional landscape. It's about recognizing the subtle currents of your inner world, the way your thoughts and feelings nudge you towards or away from virtuous action. When you feel the pull of procrastination, it's not a failure. It's an invitation to practice, an invitation to pause, to observe the impulse without immediately obeying it, and to remember that you have the power to choose. So, when the blue light beckons in the quiet of the morning, or when the urge to defer whispers in the afternoon, remember the wisdom of the Stoics. They offer not a harsh judgment, but a guiding hand. They remind you that discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about consistently choosing what is within your control, aligning your actions with your values, and cultivating the inner fortress that no external force can truly breach. It's about recognizing that the silent habits are not destiny, but merely patterns, and patterns can be rewritten one conscious choice at a time. The battle is internal, and the victory is yours to claim. The Roman philosopher's words echo, not as a distant sermon, but as a living truth within you. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The blue light of the screen, once a seductive siren, now feel flat. The curated lives of strangers, once so compelling, now seem like distant constellations. Beautiful perhaps, but utterly irrelevant to the gravitational pull of your own nascent purpose. A quiet evening settles, not the frantic energy of avoidance, nor the heavy cloak of regret, but a profound, almost sacred stillness. You're sitting in your room, perhaps in the same chair where countless hours have dissolved into the ether of distraction. But tonight it's different. Tonight you are not merely present, you are observing. The urge comes, as it always does. The familiar twitch in your thumb, the whisper in your mind to reach for the phone, to fill the quiet with noise, to escape the nascent discomfort of simply being. But this time, something shifts. Instead of reflexively obeying, you pause. It's a microsecond, a breath held, a deliberate act of non-engagement. You feel the pull, acknowledge its presence, and then, for the first time, you choose not to follow. It's not a thunderbolt of willpower, but a gentle unfurling, like a tightly clenched fist slowly relaxing its grip. You watch the urge, as if it were a cloud passing in the sky. It drifts, it wavers, and then, surprisingly, it begins to dissipate. The craving lessens. The perceived emptiness of the moment begins to fill, not with external stimuli, but with a quiet, powerful presence, your own. This isn't about denying yourself pleasure. This is about choosing real pleasure, the deep, resonant satisfaction that comes from conscious action, from aligning your internal world with your highest intentions. You remember Epictetus, some things are in our control and others are not. And in that moment, the seemingly insignificant act of not reaching for the phone becomes a profound assertion of control. You are not a slave to impulse. You are the master of your internal kingdom. Your power was always within you. A memory surfaces vivid and sharp. A time you felt truly alive, truly engaged. Perhaps it was completing a challenging project, learning a new skill, or connecting deeply with a loved one. In those moments, there was no scrolling, no distraction. There was only the focused intensity of presence, the rich texture of experience, and a wave of clarity washes over you. Those moments are the antidote to the silent destroyers. Those moments are built, not stumbled upon. You look around your space, the unread book on the nightstand, a silent testament to good intentions. The journal, its pages blank, waiting for the imprint of your thoughts. The sketch pad, gathering dust. They are not accusations, but invitations. Invitations to build, to create, to engage with the world on your own terms. The feeling isn't one of immediate triumph, but of profound understanding. It's the sensation of puzzle pieces clicking into place, of a fog lifting to reveal a landscape that was always there, only obscured. The silent habits aren't just bad behaviors. They are symptoms of a deeper disconnect, a subtle abdication of your inner authority. But now you see the path back. With a quiet resolve that feels ancient and new all at once, you reach. Not for the phone, but for the journal. The pen feels heavy, significant. The blank page no longer intimidating, but expectant. You begin to write, perhaps just a single sentence or a jumble of thoughts, but it's an act of creation, an act of self-possession. Each word is a deliberate stroke against the current of distraction, a conscious choice to inhabit your own mind, to forge your own path. A smile, faint but genuine, touches your lips. It's a smile of recognition, of self-compassion, and of burgeoning strength. The battle isn't over, but the tide has turned. You've found the fulcrum, the point of leverage within yourself. The struggle against the silent destroyers will continue, but now you face them with a new weapon, the unwavering power of your own deliberate choice. The quiet is no longer empty. It is pregnant with possibility. The darkness is not bleak. It is the fertile ground from which a new dawn can truly rise. The art of being. The soft glow of the screen fades to black, but the inner light, once flickering, now burns with a steady, unwavering flame. The journey through the silent sabotages, the echoes of ancient wisdom, and the quiet turning point has led you here, to this moment of profound reflection. The silence that once felt like a void, an invitation for distraction, now feels like a sanctuary, a space where clarity can finally bloom. You've looked into the shadows of your own making, seen the subtle erosion of discipline, and felt the weight of choices unmade. But you've also glimpsed the immense power that lies dormant within you, waiting to be awakened. This isn't about becoming a different person, but about becoming more fully yourself. It's about stripping away the layers of automatic responses and external pressures to reveal the unwavering core of your own agency. Think of it not as a battle won, but as a discipline cultivated. The journey is ongoing, a continuous practice of awareness and intentionality. There will be days when the old habits resurface, when the lure of instant gratification feels overwhelmingly strong. But now you are armed with a new understanding. You know the whispers for what they are, not commands, but mere suggestions. And you know deep in your bones that you possess the power to choose. This clarity doesn't come with a sudden roar, but with a gentle unfurling, like a lotus opening to the sun. It's the peace of knowing you are no longer a passive passenger in your own life, but the deliberate navigator of your course. The frustration of past failures begins to recede, replaced by the quiet dignity of present effort. The anxiety about the future softens, because you understand that the future is built, brick by deliberate brick, in the choices you make right now, in this very moment. The Stoics, in their profound wisdom, didn't promise a life free from hardship or discomfort. In fact, they embraced these as opportunities for growth. They taught that true strength isn't about avoiding pain, but about facing it with courage and reason. So when the urge to defer arises, or the hand instinctively reaches for the phone, it's not a moment of weakness, but a chance to practice, a chance to pause, to observe the impulse, and to consciously align your actions with your values. Imagine your discipline not as a rigid set of rules, but as a muscle. Every time you choose intention over impulse, creation over consumption, presence over distraction, you are strengthening that muscle. It grows not through grand, heroic efforts, but through consistent, small acts of defiance against the currents of least resistance. It grows in the quiet moments when no one else is watching, in the subtle shifts of your inner landscape. Stop existing, start living. This transformation isn't about achieving perfection. It's about cultivating congruence, bringing your actions into alignment with your deepest aspirations. It's about building a life that feels authentic, rich, and deeply satisfying, not because of what you possess, but because of how you choose to be. The silent habits were destroying your discipline, yes, but they were also obscuring your true potential, your inherent capacity for wisdom and resilience. Now, as you stand at this threshold, consider the quiet revolution unfolding within you. The power to reclaim your mornings, to focus your days, to nurture your relationships, to pursue your passions. It was always there. It was simply veiled by the constant hum of distraction, the incessant demands of an external world you allowed to dictate your internal state. But no more. You are the architect of your attention, the sculptor of your habits, the sovereign of yourself. The journey of unlearning the silent destroyers and replacing them with conscious, life-affirming choices is not a burden, but a profound privilege. It is the privilege of living a life fully examined, fully chosen, and fully engaged. Let this understanding settle within you, a deep and resonant truth. Feel the quiet power that comes from knowing you possess the tools, the wisdom, and the inherent capacity to forge your own path. The world outside will continue its ceaseless clamor, but within you, a new kind of silence will reign. A silence born of clarity, purpose, and unshakable inner peace. As Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, so eloquently reminded himself and us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one.